Welcome back everybody. You joined me this morning at Nash Point. We got a bit of a stiff southeasterly breeze. It might affect the fishing, I don't know, but I'm really excited to go and fish a mark I haven't fished in maybe 10 or 12 years. So let's get down there, try and get a few bites and see if we get a bit of action. Well, I'm sure you're all intrigued on what specific mark on this beautiful stretch of South Wales coast I'm going to be fishing today. And the mark I'm fishing is a mark called the Big Ledge, and it's literally just underneath the Nash Point lighthouse, what we can see there in the background. It's incredible to think that that bit of architecture is almost 200 years old. 1831, I looked it up, 1831 it was made, and it's still stood there now, proud and bold on our beautiful coast. It's really nice to see. So the Big Ledge, it is what it is, it's a big ledge, and this whole beach, like a lot of beaches in South Wales, is paved in bedrock and coral, and this beach is no different, it's exactly the same. We've got ledges and gullies and coral banks, and we're fishing out onto mixed and rough ground, and we're going to start with 3 hooks, size 2s, the same rig I used the other night. I'm going to bang it out there, a variation of baits to try and see what the fish are interested in. So there's our first rig, 6 ounces as always, rotten bottom, span up. We've got bluey and sand eel and mackerel, and peeler crab, presented on a 3-hook clip rig, size 2s. I'm going to give it a bang now, not too far, but far enough, hopefully, into the path of some feeding fish. There we go, we are fishing, we've got a nice bit of tide, it's pulling really hard, it does pull on this whole stretch, it's really strong on the drop. I've got my rod rest leg stand wedged in the ledge to make sure my stand doesn't go over, and I'm going to get baited up. It's really important to be prepared and be as efficient and streamlined with your fishing as you can, so you get the best from your situation. So second cast, I'm going to go exactly the same approach, 3 hooks, 3 baits. Check it out there, vary my distance, vary my range, try and pick up some pouting, rockling, dog, straps, that sort of thing. And if you're wondering why I've come to this venue today, the reason is because we've got a match here on Sunday. And even though I may not fish this exact mark, I haven't fished in a long time, so I really just wanted to come down, be on the place, give it a try, and maybe reminisce over some old memories from 20 years ago, who knows. But all in all, by coming today, it allows me to have a taster, test the water, see what fish are around, and get me familiar with the conditions and the venue that I'll be fishing on Sunday. As usual, baiting up on my needle, threading my hook on the top, and then re-whipping my bait with my hook on top, so it's nicely presented, anchored in place, so when I cast it's still presented, and I'm confident that when I cast and it lands, it's still presented and looks exactly the same. Nice and juicy, hook showing, ready for a fish. There we go, nicely fishing. So a bit on the venue, this whole stretch of beach from St Donat's up to Witches is all low water fishing. There's nowhere really you can fish safely at high water. And that in mind, most of this area is rotten bottom fishing. I did think about going to Nash today, but I think there'll be dogs and rays there today, and I think there'll be dogs and rays there Sunday. I wouldn't be surprised if it's one at Nash on Sunday. It has been one down by here. Last year Crimpy won off the chair. The year before it was one off the Nash. Cowley had a blonde, a small-eyed and a dog. When I was down Donat's and I was second with a bag of eels and dogs and bits. But rough ground fishing, it can be really daunting, and I've been inundated with questions and messages to do with rigs, lines and knots, and that's another reason why I came here today on the rough ground, to show you that it's not as bad as sometimes you think it is. And I completely get it, I can completely relate why people find it daunting and hard to come and fish these marks. But sometimes you've just got to give it a go, give it your best shot and learn from your experiences. So as you can see by the nature of what I'm fishing off, it's pretty hairy. It's rough, we've got some deep water, some strong tides, lots of ledges, but that doesn't always reflect what you're fishing on out there in the sea. It can do, the whole channel is made up of ledges and plateaus, ledges and reefs, coral and all sorts. And right over there to the right hand side is a buoy which marks the end of the Nash sandbank. The Nash sandbank is a massive bank which divides up 2 big channels of water, and Sometimes you can fish a venue and you could be lucky and you can get away and not lose any gear, and another day you can go down and you can lose an absolute shit ton. And what happens is, in the channel we get a combination of certain tides and certain winds, and there's a lot of sand out on the channel, and this can move and it can layer up on some venues and move it along. So where you're fishing today may be okay, come Sunday it might not be, you just don't know. But you really just got to get out there, give it a go, learn from your mistakes, and gain that bank of information and experience and put it all together, and hopefully you can get some good fishing on the rough ground in South Wales. So there's my bait for today, the usual suspects: bluey, mackerel, squid, sand eel, bit of prawn, some nice crab. I haven't gone mad on the crab. I had a few splitters in the tank, so I thought I'd bring them down. Always handy just to chuck out on a pulley, see if we can catch a codlin or an eel, and there is a chance of a codlin here, absolutely. So never say no to a South Wales unicorn. Biscuits, my favourite chocolate biscuits, and I have got, as usual, my chocolate milkshake. Well, that's been out there 20 minutes now. I haven't had any indications, but the tide's pulling really strong, the water's dropped off nice. I'm going to get it in and check. Hopefully I'm not stuck. Let's have a look. Well, there we go. We didn't have any bites, but we managed a doggy, and that took the bluey and the sand eel on the bottom hook. But what I find with dogs is the smaller bait you fish, the better they're hooked. The bigger bait you fish, the deeper they're hooked. Now, a bit of a paradox, dogs. When you get the massive bites, they often don't hook up. When you get the little pulls and little taps and no indications like that, you can often reel in 2 or 3 at a time. And that's a prime example. I've got my lead back, and it's really important when you're on rough ground, make sure your clutch is done up tight before you start reeling. Wind down, lift into it, and keep it moving. You've got to keep it moving. You've got to really initiate your retrieve, okay? So keep that fish moving, keep his head coming towards you. Don't give it a second to get back down in the ground. Go, second cast, only in the water 12 minutes, little bites like I said, tapping away. I put my soft shell on, it's really nippy, it's really cold. A lot of weight on that, there we go, that's a great result. I absolutely adore these cookies. Look at that chocolate chip ratio on there, look at the size of those chips, they are mega. It used to be £1 18 months ago for a pack of these, which is superb value. They've gone up to £1.55. I'm not impressed, but I'm still prepared to pay the money. Well, there's nothing wrong with my rigs, there's nothing wrong with my bait. Another pair of dogs, that's 5 in under an hour. It's going quite well. I might have a move. I feel like mixing it up and try to catch something else. See what happens. Getting everything back so far. I did drop my lead that cast, which made it a lot easier reeling those double dogs in. So, as the dogs are biting, we'll have a quick minute just to answer some of the questions I've been asked about main lines, knots and rigs. So main lines I'm using today is 0.36. Now that's quite low diameter. I don't use, or I don't go, I should say, I don't compare off breaking strings. I only go off diameters. Maybe if I'm old school, but that's how I work. And I find that the most efficient and effective way to balance your gear, okay? So I'm using 0.36. I have got some reels with 0.43 on. If I'm losing gear, then I'll address it and I'll change appropriately to how I'm fishing the conditions. Right, as far as clip rigs go, I'm getting a lot of questions about them, and it's really important that you stretch out everything before you set your crimps and set your spring. Okay, so after I've threaded my components on my rig body, I'll put that rig body at a massive tension and stretch it right out, test my knots, just to get all that memory out of that coil. Then as I'm putting the hook clamps on, I'll hold the hook with a pair of pliers carefully, not to distort the hook or damage the hook in any way, and I'll stretch our hook clamp out before I can adjust and set my crimps accordingly to where I want them to be stopped at on the rig. So I use a Benimi twist. I'm using 80 pound leader. Okay, which in this case I think is 0.9 of a mil. It's quite big, it's not so classic, but it's really good. Cheap and cheerful, it's clear, and I like that. I like both options, cheap and clear, works well for me. If you need me twist on the rough, I'm using like the lines £14 and £12, so like 0.28 and 0.32 lines for my clean and my mixed ground. Then I may use tapered leaders. Okay, and I'll use a tapered leader which is classed from 20 to 70, something like that, and that works really well with me. I like that on my lighter reels and my lighter fishing, places like Ogmore and that, those sort of areas. The diversity of this coastline is really impressive. I absolutely love it, it's great. So the match on Sunday is from St Donat's, which is down to the left and maybe a mile away, all the way up to Wickledge, which is maybe a mile and a half out. It's probably about 2.5 miles of ground we got. And over that span of coastline, we've got a massive diversity of venues. We've got loads of marks. We've got some great, really rough ground marks up at St Donat's. Then you've got the point and you've got the chair, some good marks. You've got all these ledges where I am here. They all fish the same, and I think it's going to be a good match. There's going to be plenty of fish caught all the way along. I'm certain of it. And then further up to the right, we've got Bullis Lagoon. It's a nice sandy beach, but it is corally out there. There's a bit more mix, and it can throw up some really nice fish, some nice small eyes and bullets and eels. And wouldn't be surprised if a nice conger caught the best Sunday. And then further west again, obviously got Nash Sands, and that'll be plagued with anglers, and I'm pretty sure it'll be plagued with fish as well. But the tide has turned quite early, which does happen sometimes. You can't always go on the information they're given online. I think it's time to try for an eel. Nice little joey, pair of 4 O's, 80 pound hook length, nice and juicy. Get the fish, homing in on that scent. Here we go, dogs are back on the feed. Small hook, small bait, hooked perfectly, not deeply hooked. As you've seen, when I lifted into that, I was stuck. And if you keep constant pressure, wind down, get all the stretch out of the line, constant pressure, and it'll often eventually pop you out. You've got to play around with things sometimes. How frustrating is that? Did you see that then? It was only in the water 2 minutes. Hell of a bite, really going. There's a dog on it straight away. Mid look, there was an eel. And he straightened out my size 2. Opened it right up, look. You know, it was a solid hook, but it felt like a tidy fish. Maybe between 3–4.5 kilos. It felt tidy. But you win some, you lose some. That's the risks of fishing through hookers. Sometimes you land them, sometimes you don't. Right, dog number 8, let's get it back in the water. Put me on the beach, and one thing I love is a good forage. I love a little moochie round, lifting up rocks in the pools. That there is an oyster. I'm finding them on all the beaches in South Wales, and that really indicates how clean the water is. The water in the channel may look dirty, but it's silt and sediment, and you can't do anything about that. But the purity of the water itself is testament that it's clean, and that there is an indication to show it. Also, I found myself a lead. I love finding a lead. Look at that. I've lost 2 today, but I found 1, so as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing okay. There we go, nice little strap, about 2 kilos, about 4 pounds. After losing that better eel, I put a pulley straight out, and pretty soon we're in again. So the eels are coming through on the flood. And that was on that crispy crab that I showed you earlier. Simple as that. Nothing special, nothing fancy, just a little happy meal, burger and fries, equivalent, and we got a result. Nice strap. Not the one we lost earlier, but it's a fish. I have had just over 3 hours fishing. I've had a good time. I'm feeling quite tired. I'm still recovering from my cold from 2 weeks ago. The tide's pushing really hard at the moment. I'm not fishing very far out. I've had a scratch around on a one rod close in. I haven't caught anything on it. I've lost a few bits, a few ends and that, and a few leads. It's pushing really hard now. There's quite a bit of debris in the water, and the swell has picked up. So that's one thing to be mindful of on this stretch of coastline, is whatever the size of the swell on the drop, it will at least double on the flood. So just be mindful of that. Usually the bigger the tides, the bigger the swell. The more southerly we've had in the channel keeps the swell on the coast and in the beaches. And this area from Mount Nash all the way down to Lantwit is notorious for it. It's been a nice day. I've enjoyed myself. Had a pile of dogs, landed one eel. Those waves are splashing up behind me, as you can probably hear. If you want to come down here, it's really easy to find. Follow the coast road from Barry if you're coming from that direction. A signposted Marcross. Park at the top of the cliff. You've got to pay. There was no one there this morning, so I got away with it as far as I'm concerned. But you do have to pay for most of the year. But look at that, it's really nice. See some blue sky, listen to the waves and have a good time. I've enjoyed my time out. It's been nice. We'll reel in 5 minutes and see if we've got anything on the last cast. Those waves are going to have me in a minute, I can tell. And just as I was saying, I haven't had anything close in. I've put a pulley out and I would say that is an eel. There we have it, Mr. Conger. That was really close in. There's a bit of depth off that ledge now. I probably flicked that about 15 yards. It's a tide eel. 2.5, 3 kilos. Bigger than the one I had earlier. Not as big as the one I lost. But that builds a nice bag in a match. Nice fish. Happy with that. Good result. Well, that's me done. I'm going home. Hope you enjoyed watching it. I've enjoyed making it, and again I've enjoyed sharing my experiences with you. So stay tuned and we'll see what comes about next week.